This coming up on is at 100. Andrea Canning is off the rails. Welcome, Andrea. I've missed you.
I know. I love Andrea Canning.
Everyone's yelling. The coffee is bananas. We're off the rails.
Hi, Jillian Benzavalli.
Hello, Patrick Hines.
Hey, fam, if you're having a good time with us, and why wouldn't you be, join us on the Patreon. It's been a minute since we've really talked about it a lot.
Sure.
But there's so much content there. There's like 400 full ad-free bonus episodes for you to download and binge the second you sign up.
Very minute.
It's where we cover the episode-by-episode series. So give them some examples.
Yeah, so Killer Nanny and The Vow and Tiger King.
Never Let Him Go.
Never Let Him Go. McMillions. Pepsi Where's My Jet.
Yep. Serial Season 1, The Staircase.
Yep.
The Jinx. Oh my goodness, the Jinx.
The Jinx, remember the
of
Jinx?
It all? Oh, the Gacy thing from Peacock.
Yep, Bad Vegan.
Yes. Tinder Swind.
No, that was a two-parter on the regular feed. But you can listen to it ad-free on the Patreon if you like.
That's true. Right.
That's
so you
there.
get all of that plus ad-free versions of these episodes plus after parties.
Yeah.
And
sometimes we send you
we
fun
send things in the mail sometimes. That's how you get the calendar that's coming out.
Oh, that's right.
The annual calendar.
It's that time again.
It's that time of year where we send a calendar.
Yep.
I sing now. I sing on episodes.
You sing. You're a singer.
I'm a singer. It's in my soul.
There you go.
What are we talking about today?
So this is Mystery in Mustang.
Yeah.
It's a Dateline episode, and we are here with the lovely Andrea Canning.
Oh my God! A fire chief murdered. His wife, the only witness. This detective knew them both.
She started telling me about a young man coming into their home and shooting Keith.
Her job now, solve this crime. And clue number 1 was a doozy.
She said that after he had shot Keith, he turned to her and said, I'm sorry, ma'am.
I'm sorry? A killer who apologized? And that was just the start. A gun stashed in a dryer. A man's glove, but whose DNA? A woman with a whole lot to reveal.
No, don't pick it up. She tossed her top to me.
She just whipped it off?
I was shocked.
I love an Andrea Canning moment.
Yeah, I missed
really
her.
do love her. She tells us we're about 20 miles southwest of Oklahoma City. It's a town called Mustang. I wanted that to be where the Mustang was made, but it seems like that's not the case.
I guess not. Yeah, it's a Ford
They would have
Mustang,
mentioned it, right? Yeah.
So it's Ford.
Yeah, it's Ford.
Right.
Okay.
It's a Ford Mustang.
Yeah. Once farmers and ranchers dotted the land, it's bigger now, but the folks still hold on to their roots, they tell us, as we see these like women.
Enormous crosses.
Yeah, what enormous crosses. But we see these like ladies on horseback. And it looks like they're going to brunch. And I was just like, are they taking their horses to bottomless brunch at the gay bar?
And then do you like tie them up outside?
That's what you do with a horse.
Right? Okay, great.
Yeah. It's a very small town, and they love church.
They love it.
Really love. Pam is here.
The crosses are enormous.
I know.
They're so big.
Pam from church, we'll get to her in a little bit, but she loves it.
So we're talking about Keith and Becky Bryan. They are pillars of the community. Keith is described as a beloved fire chief who spent his career helping those in trouble, not unlike our dear friend Bob Ruff.
Correct. Oklahoman to the core.
Right. And Becky, his wife, is a respected realtor, or they say it the way Raylan said it in Justified, realtor. Raylan's in Kentucky, and I guess Kentucky, but realtor.
These two got married when they were 19.
Yeah.
They settled in Mustang. This is where, when they moved to Mustang, I guess at 19 years old, they meet Pam, who's an old friend of Keith's. Pam was very excited to bring them into the church.
Pam Woodard, an old friend of Keith's, rolled out the welcome mat for the Bryans when they moved to town.
They became an integral part of our church, very active, very grounded.
They had 2 boys, Trent and Kent.
They had 2 kids,
Trent and Kent.
Why do you do this? Why do people do this? Can I ask you?
Like, this is Daisy and this is Maisie.
Like,
I know. I mean, look, maybe
both great names.
Both great names. It probably, maybe they didn't even realize that they rhymed until a couple years in.
Please don't be twins, Trent and Kent.
I don't think they're twins, but I also think like it's hard enough for me when you and Natalie and Maggie are in the same. My brain can't do it when it's Jillian, Natalie, and Maggie in the same place.
What's so confusing about it?
Just my brain is, I don't know. I can't remember anybody's name. I call you, but imagine that you have 2 kids and their names rhyme. Trent, Kent, Beck, get over here.
But the thing is, no one thinks about the kids.
I know.
Because then it's like, oh, I'm Trent and here's my brother Kent. Like, no one thinks about introducing the kids and how it makes them feel.
Yeah.
Like when you name your kid.
Did you hear about the lady who got her child taken? This is a true story. There's a parent who had her child removed from her because she named her daughter Tallulah Does the Hula from Hawaii.
Oh, fuck off. I think I've heard this before.
It's a true story.
But like, think about
Do you know
Tallulah
who
on the
fucking
playground.
told me that story?
Who?
Joe.
Joe who? Joe who? Oh.
No, it's a real story, though. I promise you. Look it up. It's in the newspaper.
But think about Tallulah on the playground.
I know.
And at recess. Kids are mean.
Well,
like, think about her.
I know. You know who thought about her? The judge. The judge removed her.
There's got to be more to this story.
I know.
Because that is asshole behavior.
I 100%
But there's
agree.
got to be more to this.
No,
I hope she's okay. But can you think about your kid who has to live with that name for their entire fucking lives?
I agree.
You idiots. I'm sorry.
But Pam, this was where
I have to say, I'm sorry. Trent and Kent is real. We have bigger fish to fry in the name department and in this story in general. That's all I'm saying.
So moving on. Pam, this was what I didn't know who the bad guy was going to be in this story, but Pam goes,
Becky was a good mom. From what I could tell, she was a good mom.
Becky is a good mom, from what I can tell.
Oh. Pam said a whole lot.
I gotta also tell you though, Pam is on the receiving end of a lot of like information from Becky throughout this one.
Pam is like,
I know.
Pam doesn't want to be Becky's friend.
No.
And Becky just keeps telling her a whole bunch of stuff. And Pam's like, I don't want this information because now I have to go to court.
I know.
Like she doesn't want to know any of it.
I know.
So we meet Terry and Kim and they were friends with Becky.
Because
and Keith.
We haven't even mentioned yet that Keith was a fireman. Did we mention this?
We did because we talked about Bob Ruff.
Oh, right. He was a fireman. It was his dream job.
Yeah. And these couples were really, really close. Like like family, super, super close. Keith was actually one of the first responders in the Oklahoma City bombing.
Right. And he was like passionate about his job. And the friend tells us
Keith had a good sense of humor. He was outgoing and he was really driven to succeed.
And he did. Promoted all the way to fire chief in 1991.
He was one of the first responders to the Oklahoma City bombing.
He was. I was pretty proud of him as a friend for that.
He was a hero, like he was a force in the community, like he was saving lives, like he really loved it. And then they're like, Becky too was a force in the community. She's in real estate. And I'm like, well, unless she's solving the housing crisis, saving lives in the Oklahoma City bombing and being a realtor is just two very different things.
Now, in fairness, not everybody is called to a job.
I completely
you know what I
understand.
mean? We can't all be fucking doctors like your dad, Jillian.
Yeah, please. And then, but then Andrea Canning is like, shut up, Jillian.
Some of us just want to make podcasts, okay?
Look,
and we're doing our
I'm not
part.
doing it.
People tell us that we make them laugh.
Please. Well, hopefully. And Andrea is like, shut up, Jillian, because then we learn that Pam says that like that Becky would take her own money to closing to help people get a house. And I'm like, all right, maybe she's doing her part. I'll shut up now.
Then like what changed?
Right.
Because it sounds like they were really happy. They had this great life. They both were good people. Becky was bringing her own money to closing.
Don't do that.
Don't do that.
It
like,
sets a bad precedent.
And also, like, how are you going to get your money back? Like, but I understand what you're saying.
But also, she's trying to get people homes. Like, who the fuck am I to judge it?
Right.
How she's doing it.
But I mean, like, where we end up in this story.
It's really bad.
Yeah.
But like, they were also like, everyone loved who they were as individuals, but also as a couple. Like, they were counseling other couples in church. And I'm like, well, just to be clear, though.
Yeah.
They're not like licensed counselors. They're church counselors.
Exactly.
They're like, as a couple, like talking to another couple and basically just telling them
Because like some religions do like premarital counseling.
Yeah.
And okay, whatever. I actually appreciate the idea that like this couple who's nailed it, this couple who's like super happy and super in love, they're like sitting down with other couples to say like younger couples to say this is how we did it and here are some tricks of the trade.
But they're not like licensed in any way.
No. And it's like you and I doing after parties. Like they should say up front, like, we'll tell you what worked for us, but we don't, but like also it could be bad for you.
To call it counseling makes it feel more official than it is.
Totally. They should call it like
advice corner.
Yeah, premarital
Becky's
advice corner. Totally.
Or something.
Becky's advice corner.
But like to the shock of absolutely nobody.
When in 2010, Keith and Becky hit a rough patch. The boys were grown and the empty nesters separated. Becky moved out.
There was a time where Becky had actually moved out.
Yeah, and then they say that Keith works really hard to win Becky back. So like dates and gifts and love notes.
And Becky's brother is very involved here. His name is David.
David really shocks me at something. We'll get to what David says.
And like So Becky's brother is super close with Keith, and David is like giving Keith advice about how to win her back.
Yeah.
And then he finally does win her back.
I appreciate that this is a very Hallmark movie.
But like, what happened?
Right.
It's very one-sided.
Because we're on a Dateline episode. Do you know what I mean?
Because like, yes, but what happened, like... What did Keith do that was so wrong that he has to beg for Becky to come back? I thought they were working together on these things.
What I will say. We will hear Becky, because guess what? This gets murdery pretty quickly, and we end up like in a police interrogation. I will say that we hear Becky say that Keith was kind of an asshole for 30 years. And then when she left and he realized what he was losing, he changed.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And then every other person we speak to says he was this amazing guy.
Yes.
So... unreliable narrator. Just a tiny bit.
Totally.
Because it is very like, now the brother is like, you have to write her love notes and do this stuff. It feels a little like childish. I don't know. Like, if you're going to work on the marriage, then work on the marriage. But don't have one person beg you to come back and like, you know what I mean?
That's what you're saying by one-sided. I totally understand. Like, yeah, right. Like it was all him to recover.
Right.
Yeah,
so
I get it.
That's, I don't know.
No, I get it. But they say that in the year that followed, Keith kept up his campaign of romance. It's September 20th, 2011.
Becky was at a real estate conference in Tulsa. Keith texted her sweet messages throughout the day. Becky arrived home around 8:30 p.m. A friend came over to chat. Keith, now ever attentive, made them iced tea.
Becky gets home that night at 8:30 and a friend comes over to chat, and Keith, being ever attentive as always, makes them a pitcher of iced tea.
Yeah.
To which I said, it feels like a little much.
Yeah.
It feels a little bit like a little bit of overkill. And also, can we just have a cocktail?
Like
iced tea at 8:30, you'll be up all night.
Yeah.
My point here is just like, as sweet as all the love notes and love bombing is,
but it feels
like a lot.
And it feels like, Becky, can you do your part a little? Like, it just feels like she's saying, like, no, you have to get me back. I'm just I don't know, maybe I'm making assumptions, but that her brother, like, what did Keith do to grovel and beg for forgiveness? If he did something where he needs to beg for forgiveness, then tell me.
Yes.
But what is the rough patch? What happened? Like, I just need a little more context, and we never get it.
But that night, after the iced tea and the friend leaves, they say, Becky tells us that they settle in to watch Carrie, the movie.
The, like, very classic horror movie that is on my list to watch every Halloween season.
Is that right?
I don't think it's that weird that they sit and watch Carrie.
No, I don't think it's weird.
Okay, yeah.
No.
It's a classic film. I'm using the word film.
Sure.
But
Sissy Spacek.
I love it.
Yeah.
Young John Travolta.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, my.
He's an asshole in it. But yeah, it's like a great movie. So, but I think they want to be like, a horror movie. Like, I wouldn't look that much into it. A good movie's a good movie, you know?
But then all of a sudden, we get this 911 call. So, like, the last we heard, they're sitting and watching Jillian's favorite movie, Carrie.
It's a classic.
You're looking at me like I said it's a bad movie. I like that you like it.
When was the last time you watched it?
Not since I was, like, in high school.
Really?
Yeah. But I'm not like, we don't sit and watch, although we did recently watch Bros. Not great. Not great.
That's
the gay Billy Eichner movie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the Judd Apatow produced or whatever.
Oh, what happened?
Nothing. It's just like, to me, the gays have been making movies like this since the 90s. And now
great.
it's like a mainstream thing. And it's like, no, we've seen this 1,000 times.
Oh, okay.
You know?
All right.
But anyway, all of a sudden there's a 911 call.
911, state emergency.
It was Becky.
A young man, about 25.
Then the phone cut out. What was she saying? Dispatcher sent police to the house.
Headquarters to available Mustang units.
Becky called back.
You know, I just called 911 on my cell phone.
Yes.
Are you coming to my house?
She said an intruder shot Keith in the head.
My husband is laying there.
So she calls back and she's like, okay, you're coming, right?
Yeah.
Okay, great, because some guy broke in and shot my husband in the head.
Yeah, the 911 calls where you're giving unasked for details always stand out to me.
And she says, I took a screenshot of this. She goes, oh my God, he's in a little itty bitty pickup.
Right. She's describing the assassin
getaway car.
Getting away.
A little itty bitty pickup.
Right.
Now, I've thankfully never been in this situation. God knows what I would say.
Yes.
I'd probably start saying things where I would hang up and be like, why did I use the term itty bitty?
Right.
Like, who am I? Oh, I'm dealing with a trauma right now.
Yeah.
Who the hell knows?
Yeah.
So she says the guy's driving away. He's driving down her street. Oh my God, someone hurry.
Yeah.
So first responders are there ASAP. And then we get this thing. It's like, well, it's the fire chief. It's like, that shouldn't fucking matter.
Right.
An emergency is an emergency.
And they're just saying that, like, people kind of like know, everyone knows everyone in this little town.
Right.
The police arrive, but so does friend Gina Hickman.
Yeah.
And she's there to say she's also the wife of a firefighter. And Gina tells us that Becky hugs her and immediately says, I'm so sorry. I know he was your friend too. She's already referring to her husband in the past tense.
Right. She can't wait. It sounds like she can't wait to be speaking about him that way.
It also just feels like, isn't that 101 of killing your husband? Like, wait until he's dead? Like, it just feels like, is she trying to get caught?
Oh, yeah. I don't know.
You know what I mean?
I think when something like this happens, there's also a lot of adrenaline. So I think she's just trying to see, like, what would a grieving wife say? How can I be thoughtful to someone else or something?
Gina is telling us that Becky's like out on the back porch, calling all the friends and family, repeating the intruder, the armed intruder story.
Who has time to get on the phone and do did you hear about Hugo and Kim about your fucking
Especially
husband?
when your husband is fucking dying in an ambulance.
I'm not calling anybody.
No, get in your car and go be with your husband.
I would be so but then we meet Tammy McNeil and she's a detective and she's like, wait, nothing like this has ever happened to me before because she knew Keith and the family. Becky calls Tammy directly.
Yeah.
And says, you got to get over here. This guy shot Keith.
A young man, approximately 25 years old, coming into their home and shooting Keith in the head.
And what did that young man say, according to Becky?
She said that after he had shot Keith, he turned to her and said, I'm sorry, ma'am, but he should have hired me.
I'm sorry, ma'am, but he should have fucking hired me. And then Becky says that the man had a big nose and was wearing a hoodie. And I just thought that was a curious potential dog whistle. I don't know what that is. I didn't like it.
No, I totally agree.
I felt a little racism coming from Becky there.
I absolutely agree. But like the thing that stands out to Tammy is like, wait, the guy shot your husband and then apologized to you?
And then told you the motive.
Right.
Looked right in your face and you can't, and then ran away.
Because number one, Tammy, the detective, was like, well, now I'm afraid there's an armed shooter on the loose in our little town.
Right.
But also, what does Keith do that he's hiring people?
Right.
You know what I mean?
And also, not really, because this was very specific. This was a very targeted attack to Keith.
Right.
So by saying that, it's kind of like, no, there isn't someone on the loose. This person wanted to kill Keith.
Yep.
So the cops want to get the guy, obviously. This doesn't happen in their small town, and they just need to get to the bottom of it.
And they're saying, so wait a second, it's possible that Keith knew the guy. Of course, they can't ask Keith because he's been shot in the head and he's now unconscious. But good news, at the hospital, they say Keith is not dead.
Hopeful news. He was clinging to life.
I told her, I said, he's going to surgery. And she said, really?
Keith made it through surgery, still in terrible shape, but alive in the ICU. When Becky arrived, the halls of the hospital were filled with friends, loved ones, and Keith's firefighter brothers.
Becky finally gets to the hospital. If this were Steve, are you kidding me?
You'd oh my God.
And they say the hallways were lined with friends and family and quote Keith's firefighter brothers. And they're just right away, it feels off. It's like Becky's coming in. She's not behaving the way people are expecting her to behave.
Yeah.
Church Pam wants to pray. She knows prayer is very powerful.
Yeah, of course. The whole town's there. Everyone is rooting for Keith. And unfortunately, everything changes.
Yeah.
And Keith does not pull through. And everyone, it's super emotional in the hospital. Everyone is saying their goodbyes. And then that also really rallies the cops to get to the bottom of this, right?
Yeah.
So Becky is questioned because guess what? She's the only witness.
And everyone is saying Keith didn't have an enemy in the world. So who would have done this?
Right.
Who would have come in and made it clear to the wife that he was killing the husband on purpose?
Right. So here's Becky's story. They were at home. They were watching Carrie.
Yeah. Jillian's favorite movie.
Hopefully some popcorn is involved. God damn it. When you're having a tense, a thriller horror movie. Why are you doing that?
Because I learned the other day that I can make the popcorn sound. It's the only noise that I can make that makes
Really? That's fast popping popcorn. That'll be done in 30 seconds. You got to keep an eye on it. It's going to burn. You know who makes the best popcorn in the world?
Who?
Mike.
Oh, that doesn't surprise me.
He's like, and when I say that, he goes, it's all in the timing. He really listens in between pops. He just knows, he just has the ear for it.
Because it can burn really fast.
He just has the ear for it, and it's chef's kiss. It sounds exactly like that. So they're watching Carrie, and then a young kid, she says, walks into the house.
Yep.
He walks over, and Becky says, my husband didn't have time to turn around. I looked just in time to see that Keith, her husband, was shot right in the head.
They say at point blank range.
Then the murderer turns to Becky, according to Becky.
She says he was really nice.
Really polite. She really wants everyone to know he was polite. Turns to Becky and says, I'm sorry, ma'am, but he should have fucking hired me.
And Becky says, I knew he wasn't going to hurt me. That he was clearly there for my husband.
Right. Now, we learn...
Well, for one thing, it had been 4 years since we had hired anybody. So, nobody's going to sit and stew for 4 years and then all of a sudden get mad and go shoot the guy that didn't hire him.
Would someone stew on this for 4 years?
Right.
Like they didn't get the gig 4 years ago, now they've just been mad about it all this time?
And that friend that we met early on was like, yeah, no, that never was sat right with me because
Right.
we haven't even interviewed anybody in 4 years.
Or maybe it was like there was talk, maybe it was like a contractor, like a handyman or something.
Because he was known to do work around the house, so maybe it was like a kid that was looking for some, like a contracting job that Keith didn't hire. But no one can make the he should have hired me thing make sense.
Right. And then there's this other theory, because like they're talking to the neighbors and no one has any information. And there was like this theory that maybe the target was another fire chief named Keith Bryant with a T, because this is Keith Bryan.
Right. So Keith Bryant apparently is the fire chief in Oklahoma City. And somebody makes the point that like, well, we haven't hired anybody in 4 years. I bet Oklahoma City is hiring and firing people all the time.
Yeah.
But then Terry, the friend, is like, but I don't think the fire chief has anything to do with the hiring process.
No, this doesn't make any sense.
No.
And this is when Andrea Canning goes, the questions were many, the answers few. I'm like, Andrea, I'm right there with you, girl. We're on the same page.
We get that from Canning in every episode she hosts.
Because she's like, what is going on?
I gotta tell you.
And this episode is wild.
Canning, Joshy Manx, and Keith, they've got very distinct personalities
They
and
really
points
do.
of view. You know what I mean?
They really, really do.
I want to go to like the Dateline holiday party and just get drunk with the three of them.
Stand it. Even Lester Holt will probably party.
Totally.
He's got the easiest gig of them all.
Yeah, I'm sure he's like a red wine guy. I feel like Keith is like a cocktail guy. He likes a Mai Tai, Keith. Andrew Canning's martini with blue cheese stuffed olives.
Ooh.
And Manx is definitely like a bourbon Manhattan
Scotch.
or like a beer.
Wow.
You know?
Let's go to that. When is it?
I don't know, but we should find out.
We should totally find out. So then we learned.
I heard her just say that something about it would be hard to sell the house because he had died in the house.
Did that sound really callous to you?
Being a realtor, I could see her thinking about that.
She's saying this to friend Gina, who, like, we are expecting Gina to be scandalized. And Gina goes, as a fellow realtor, I appreciate what she's talking about. But it's like a little
major
soon.
red flag.
And also, like, he didn't die. Like, he died at the hospital.
Right.
But she's saying that
she's already
at
moving?
the house. She's saying it before she goes. She thinks he's dead.
Yeah.
She thinks he's dead.
She's hoping he's dead.
I know.
She wants him to be dead. The whole plan was that he was supposed to be dead.
Why is she if you're gonna do this thing and you're gonna kill your husband, why aren't you playing the grieving widow? You got 10 hours in you to play the grieving widow.
And we're saying this, spoiler, everyone, we're saying this knowing that she did it.
Yes.
So, like, Becky, and again, we try not to judge anyone's responses, but she didn't need any consoling. She was sitting outside with her friends, smoking some cigarettes.
And they were saying that, like, he's, like, when she does get to the hospital and it's clear that he's not going to live, she's not spending his last moments. They've been together for 33 years.
Yeah.
She's sitting outside on a bench. And again, like, maybe you just can't be in the room. I don't know.
Maybe.
If Steve was dying, maybe I couldn't be in the room. I don't know. But like it all put it all together. She's talking about like apologizing that he's dead before he's dead, thinking about selling the house, not being in the room holding his hand.
Selling the house.
I know.
The night of this show, like, oh my God.
He's not even dead yet.
Like, oh geez. And now Detective McNeil, Tammy, her friend that she called, but like Tammy's now working the case.
Yeah.
Detective McNeil is like, I gotta tell you, it was the whole conversation we had with her down at the station was like bizarre and inappropriate and pretty wild, Andrea.
Let's get into it.
And Andrea's like, hold tight. She's like, gird your loins, everyone. Like, shit, here we go.
This really is wild.
Yeah.
Before we get to that, the cops were smart in that, like, at the house before she goes to the hospital, they did test her hands for gunshot residue. I feel like somebody was like, this story isn't quite adding up.
No. And she's having a grand old time on the porch with her friends.
I mean, she's calling she's trying to she's staging the
She's
living room.
You guys, guess what?
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
How many square feet was it again? I'm putting it in the listing.
I'm a realtor. It's a realtor, right? Anyway, so the cops, they test her hands for gunshot residue.
Then they sit her down for the interview.
And they ask her what she was wearing at the time of the shooting. She goes, well, I was just like, it was movie night, so I was wearing a tube top and underwear at the time.
Which sounds freezing cold to me.
Right. So she is currently wearing clothes on top of those clothes.
She put the clothes over the underwear and the tube top.
And this is where everything takes a turn.
This is just absolutely unbelievable.
Becky is just like,
wait, no, don't take it off.
Don't take your clothes off now.
I'm gonna put my shirt on my okay.
I should have clarified. Just wait till we finish.
She grabbed the bottom of the top she was wearing, pulled it over her head, exposing her breasts, and then she tossed her top to me.
Was she wearing a bra?
No.
They say, I took a screenshot. They're like, because there's an investigator who's a man and Detective McNeil who's a woman and her friend.
Yes.
And she's just like, no, don't you want to see? No, wait.
Says it up.
And Becky takes her top off and throws it across the table at the cop. They are stunned. They are flabbergasted.
I'm stunned.
They're befuddled.
Like, I don't understand. It felt almost sexual. It felt like she was trying to show her boobs on purpose.
Right. She just starts taking her clothes off. Of course, we don't have video of this.
No, can you imagine? Thank God we don't have video of this.
Just blur it out. Who cares?
That's true. I mean, she literally, it's as though she was like, I thought you'd never ask, and takes her top off.
And taking her top off.
Like, what on earth?
She took her top off.
And it cuts back to Tammy now, and she's like, I don't know what
happened. I don't know.
Because,
I don't know.
I'm sorry. You got to give it to me one more time. When she goes to do it.
Don't. I will show you. I took the screenshot. It says, wait, no. That's all it says.
As soon as I got to that moment.
Detective McNeil, wait. And the investigator, no. And they're saying it at the same time. No. They're like, this is what do they call it? This is like, it has internal affairs written all over it. We're going to get in so much trouble.
I could only hear you doing the reenactment.
Like,
whoa,
but that's exactly what it sounds like. So clearly the interview's over. They're like, put your freaking top back on.
Oh my God.
Enough.
Tammy says, she goes, I walked into that interview giving Becky the benefit of the doubt. I walked out of there thinking she was about to be the prime suspect.
Because we're like, what the hell's going on with Becky now? You're taking your top off?
You're taking your top off.
During an investigation, your husband's dying.
I know.
My God.
I know.
So meanwhile, Becky's doing a striptease in the interrogation room. The cops are back at the house.
Detective McNeil and the other investigator went back to the house, and that's where he made a key discovery in the utility room, in the clothes dryer, a gun.
The gun was wrapped in a blanket. A shell casing was in there as well, and also a glove.
They find a gun in the clothes dryer wrapped in a blanket where there's also a shell casing and a glove.
It's hidden.
Did she not think they were going to search the house?
I don't know what she was thinking.
My God.
I don't know.
The very first episode of Dateline she watched is the one that she's on.
I mean, seriously.
You know what I mean?
Seriously. And this is where Detective McNeil's like, that was a big moment for all of us.
Well,
she did not sign up for this.
It was a big moment because Becky's already told her story. Becky can now not backtrack and say, oh, and then the killer walked into the laundry room and wrapped the gun in a towel and threw it in the dryer. Because Becky told us the killer walked in, shot the husband, apologized, and walked out the door that he came in.
Right.
So, like, she's already locked into the story. How'd the gun get into the dryer, Becky?
This is why we say stay stupid, everybody.
Exactly.
So clearly she's lying, and they keep investigating. Now, the cops are looking at her phone.
Oh, my God.
And they see a missed call, and the contact's name is Becky's Prodigy. And I just said, oh
God.
No. So according to Becky, this is a real person named Becky Prodigy. She lives in Hugo, Oklahoma. And how dare you even ask me about it? She's a fellow realtor.
A what?
We work together, thank you so much. As Raylan Givens would say, realtor. And so how dare you ask? But the way it's written, it's Becky 'S Prodigy. It's like it's trying to be like some sexy pet name, right?
Like, oh my God.
Because she's like, oh my God, I just worked with her. And cut to Andrea Canning, who's like, well, actually, Becky's Prodigy was a man named Mark Holbrook.
Now, the thing about Mark Holbrook is that he's just me. He's just a nerd trying to do the right thing.
The reason we know about Mark is because Mark himself calls the
cops. We learned that when Mark learned about the shooting, he called the investigators.
Wait, no. That's what he's saying. No, fuck. Okay. Because what he's doing, I'm sorry, I really had you there. I apologize.
I was like, what am I about to give away that you don't want me to tell?
Or there's like a bug or something. The look on your face. I'm sorry. After Keith's murder, he calls the cops right away because he's like, wait a second. I want to be honest with you.
You're going to learn about me one way or the other.
I just want to say.
He wanted them to know he and Becky had an affair. When it ended, 19 months before the shooting, he apologized to Keith and promised never to see Becky again. But he wanted cops to know she had been in touch with him recently and a lot.
we came clean. I apologized to Keith. Now I'm thinking, wait a second.
Yeah.
This rough patch where Keith was groveling to Becky, it was because she cheated on him, manipulated the whole thing to say, like, now you have to try to get me back because this guy, Mark, apologized to Keith. He's like, I'll never see Becky again.
Promise never to see her again.
And Mark says, I was so scared. I was so guilty. I called it all off. But recently, as in right before the murder, Becky starts texting and calling a lot. I still love you. Let's start up this affair again. I'll take my top off.
She starts saying, I'm going to move closer to be with him, whether he wants me to or not.
Right. Like, what? Meanwhile, the guy apologized to Keith, and she's making Keith bend over backwards to get Becky back.
Exactly.
How do people do this? The
I know.
power she has.
I know.
I could never. I don't want to, but I don't have that in me to make. Can you imagine I cheat on someone, then the person I cheat with apologizes to that person because they feel bad, and then I'm in the wrong, and I'm like, grovel.
I know.
Fucking work for it.
And it sounds like Keith and Mark are best buds, it feels like, too.
Because they've both been manipulated by the same fucking narcissist.
Exactly.
Like, they're just in it together.
But this is when the cops are like, all right, Mark, thanks for the call. Are you interested in doing some undercover work?
Thank you so much for asking. Thought you'd never ask. Let's go. So now Mark and the cops are in cahoots.
Because now imagine what a nightmare person Becky must be in real life.
She's horrified.
And like she's going to move next door to him whether he wants her to or not. He is begging for her to get sent away.
He can't wait.
I will do anything you ask.
He cannot wait. So the plan, as Andrea Canning tells us, is to record Becky and her so-called prodigy. Also, Becky, while we're here, stay stupid, everyone, but just use an actual name.
I know.
And then pretend it's someone from work.
Exactly.
Becky's prodigy is like trying to be sexy and that I don't know what it is, but I don't like it. It makes me uncomfortable.
It's something that's going to stand out to the cops after you shoot your husband.
Shut up, you stupid fucking murderer.
You stupid fucking murderer.
God. But now we have audio because
Yes.
Mark is in on it, right? And we have audio from 3 days after Keith was shot and killed.
Because Mark, the ex, is recording it. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And basically, you hear Becky. She sounds nervous as hell. She's thanking him for calling. She wants to keep the affair under wraps.
And while she stuck to her story about the intruder who shot Keith, she said she had news about him.
And the guy that shot Keith, he killed himself yesterday in the city. So I'm no longer in danger.
Oh, that's good. That's good news.
He killed himself yesterday near the city, so I'm no longer in danger.
What are you saying?
It cuts to Tammy, and Tammy is like, to be clear.
This is news to us.
News, we never gave her that information. We don't know anything about that.
Right. And Becky's like a walking red flag, but the cops are having trouble finding real evidence. And I'm like, well, what about the gun in the dryer?
I mean,
and the fact that she's lying.
You actually
and cheating on her
nailed the
husband.
finding the evidence. You had no trouble whatsoever.
Right.
But just to close the loop on this, the cops are like, yeah, this whole thing with Mark, the ex, is interesting, but it kind of goes nowhere.
Well, that doesn't matter because they tested the gun and they found out that it fucking belongs to Becky, you stupid idiot. Stay stupid.
Yeah.
So what was the point, Becky?
I mean,
like, what? Why?
Why not just leave your husband? We're gonna hear something about some kind of insurance policy at some point or whatever.
And also, who's the friend that came home from this thing with her, this convention she was at? There was a friend
there earlier that night.
Who was there earlier? Who was like
the iced tea,
the iced tea, and whatever. Like, where are they?
It's true. Like, you have to be such a narcissist to think that you're going to get away with this, to think that you're going to kill your husband and you're going to be the one to get away with it.
But the thing is, people like this, she's been getting away with everything her whole life. She got away with cheating. She got him to grovel. Like, this is what happens.
Well, there's more to the story.
There's more.
So on September 23rd, the day before Keith's fucking funeral, Becky is arrested and charged with his murder. Now, all I can think about is the kids.
Of course.
Like, when somebody does something like this, and it just kills me, you take away both parents at the same time.
Right.
Because
even though they're out of the house and they're adults now, still.
I mean, but like, in a way, I don't know. I don't want to say that's worse, but like, they're going to have their own kids who are never going to get to know their grandparents. Right. Like, it's fucking...
It's a tragic, selfish thing to do.
Awful. And we meet Becky's attorney, and he's here to basically say...
Wait a second.
What?
He's a friend of a friend.
A friend of
Which I'm sure, I guess is fine. I just hate Becky so much. But that made me go like, oh, of course he is. I don't know why, but she's a murderer, so I hate her.
Yeah,
his name's
friend of
Gary.
a friend, Gary.
Her attorney said there was a rush to judgment against Becky. And as a result, the state just didn't have the proof to back up the charge.
I do believe that law enforcement agencies in this day and age have the ability to do a lot of things that were not done in this case. I don't believe they ever looked for anyone which was a huge part of our defense.
Basically, their entire defense is just that the cops didn't look at anybody else. I'm sorry, but when they found the fucking murder weapon in the dryer with the shell casing and a bloody glove...
And it belongs to Becky.
Of course they didn't look at anybody else, you fucking idiot. These people are so stupid.
They're so stupid. And Gary James, the lawyer with two first names, is just like...
Gary James? The lawyer with two first names.
Call me. Pew, pew, pew. He's like, look, just a lot of bad circumstances. I'm like, oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. So 2013, the trial begins, and Becky, the secrets just keep coming out.
I mean, it's so crazy because, you know, the prosecution has a simple narrative. They say Becky Bryan wanted out of her marriage. She shot her husband and invented the tale of the intruder. And they're saying these secrets that are coming out, can you imagine you're one of these men? They subpoenaed two men who were receiving explicit, sexts.
And
from
photos.
Becky. Photos, exactly, from the days before the shooting.
2 days before the shooting, she's doing this.
Another man who was a client who testifies he had sex with Becky the day of the murder. So she's in Tulsa for a convention, has sex with some guy.
Air quotes convention.
Right.
I don't know if I believe that.
Comes home with some friend and has iced tea at the counter, then settles in for a nice night of karaoke watching and then shoots her husband.
Yeah. My God.
I know.
But then all of Becky's friends testify that she was cheating on Keith.
Church friend Pam is saying at the hospital while her husband was dying, having just coming out of surgery.
She just openly told me, she said, I had sex with a 29-year-old client this morning, and I have a picture of his private area on my phone. That's not the word she used. And she said, and I feel kind of bad because when I got home, Keith had made me a tea.
I've got pictures of his junk on my phone. I can show it to you if you'd like.
And I had sex with my 29-year-old client, and then I came home, and Keith was making me tea. Isn't that nice? She's making fun of it. She's laughing at him.
It doesn't make any sense to me. This is where I'm like, does she want to get caught? Because her husband is dying. He's been shot in the head, and she's bragging about the sex she had earlier in the day with somebody else.
She just thinks they're going to go find this, no-name intruder.
Right.
And so, and all of Becky's friends are on the stand being like, oh, she was cheating on Keith for years, and then she'd come home to these presents from him because she made it seem like he had to work so hard to keep her. Meanwhile, she's lying about conventions probably. She's cheating when he thinks she's at work.
She brags about what a good liar she is. They make Pam testify. She doesn't want to. Pam gets subpoenaed.
Because she testifies that Becky would always say that she was a great faker.
Right. Because she was telling Pam about the affair with Mark. And Pam was like, Becky, remember, Keith, the husband, is Pam's friend. Right. That's how they know Pam.
Right.
And Pam is saying, you and Keith seem so happy.
And Keith is working really, really hard to win your affection, and you're just cheating on him. And Pam testifies that Becky didn't give a shit about Keith.
No.
And she didn't want to make it work with Keith. She just loves the attention and affection.
But just get divorced. I don't understand. But
it's more fun for her to do this.
I know, but this winds up with you killing the father of your children. I know that I'm chasing my own tail trying to understand this. It'll never make sense.
Yeah.
But you killed the father of your kids.
I know. She's a monster.
Yes.
And Pam is testifying, and she says again, right to Andrea Canning, Becky was obsessed with Mark, the ex.
This story is insane.
Yeah.
She proceeded to tell me that she was going to tell the ex-lover that she was pregnant.
So she's saying she's pregnant with his baby?
Yes. As I said, Becky, you're 50-plus years old. And she said, 50-year-old people get pregnant all the time. And I said, who? Where? How does this happen? I've never heard of that. Her reasoning had just kind of gone out the window at that point.
Pam is like, Becky, you're 50. And so she was going to fake this pregnancy.
I know.
And she was looking for someone to provide, I don't know even what this means, to provide her with a positive pregnancy test. She was going to just go find someone who happened to be pregnant.
And make them pee on a stick. She was going to do a birth announcement.
Well, this is where Pam goes, she wanted to have a birth announcement printed out. Andrea goes, a birth announcement? Pam goes, a birth announcement. And Mark, the guy she's doing all this for, is testifying against her.
I know. He wants to do nothing. I know. It's like his nightmare is her being like, I'm going to move next door to you whether you want me to or not.
And also, what's the end game with the fake pregnancy?
I know.
How does that story end?
I know.
With the birth announcement. Okay, so you get attention and you get a bunch of gifts that you can't use because the baby doesn't exist.
And I don't want to speak out of turn here, but we've seen this before in other cases. But what ends up happening is then they fake a miscarriage and they get the sympathy there.
Fucking asshole.
I know.
So now now there's a voicemail from Becky
Yeah.
to the ex-boyfriend. And remember, Mark, he's terrified. He's working with the cops, so he's recording every conversation to like get Becky.
Oh my God. The Amber Fry of it all.
Like, so she calls him and she's like, hey, babe, guess what? And he has to act like he's into her.
I know.
Meanwhile, he's terrified and can't wait to get away from her. She's like, hey, honey, poodle bear. Pookie, hey,
Snuggle
Pookie.
Nacho.
He said that on the day Keith was shot, Becky left him a voicemail saying she planned to buy a house near him because she was about to inherit some money. To many in court, the implication was that Becky had been expecting a life insurance payout.
What she's doing is she's waiting for the life insurance payout.
Exactly.
That's what she's banking on.
And then, like, we're still at the trial. We see that both of her sons have to testify.
I know.
And Andrea tells us that, like, neither one of them said whether or not they thought their mother was guilty or not. But, like, to put your kid, you have to be the most selfish monster.
She is.
Not have a drop of actual human compassion or love in your soul.
She's not thinking about anybody
No.
but herself. She's not even thinking about any repercussions for anybody.
Yeah.
But then, like, there's evidence all over the place.
They have these experts testify to say that the gunshot residue found on Becky's hands matches the gun found in the dryer.
Also, there was gunshot residue on her hands.
Exactly.
Like, oh my God.
I know. And also that glove that was also found in the dryer, it was like a man's oversized glove. It had blood on it. It's fucking her DNA.
Her, like, come on, Becky.
And then we get like her attorney to sit down and be like, well, there wasn't enough DNA. And
Shut up. Like,
And
I
then
know that that's your job.
I know.
But come on. But then, remember her brother who was, like, really involved?
I had to get up and take a walk after this.
Her brother, I have in my notes, like, now we get her brother defending her. Kind of?
Kind of.
This is a quote.
The state argued it was premeditated murder by a woman who'd been living a double life. But Becky's brother and chief supporter wasn't buying it.
Did you feel like the evidence was overwhelming against Becky?
If you wanted to convict her of being a slut, greedy slut, yeah. Not a murderer.
You want to say she's a slut? A greedy slut? Fine. But she's not a murderer. Andrea Canning is like, excuse me.
You want to say she's a slut?
A greedy slut. That's fine. But my sister's no murderer. David, we've lost the plot, David.
They do beep, and I appreciate this. They beep the S word.
Not where I watched it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Or maybe now I don't know. This is why eyewitness accounts are so iffy.
I know.
Now I can't remember.
I know.
If they bleeped it.
Is she a
It's her
slut?
brother.
Yes. Is she a greedy slut?
Absolutely. Murderer? Not in your life. Not how dare you? How very dare you? DNA schmana. I don't believe it for a second. She's innocent.
She a slut?
David.
Yes.
1,000%.
Is she a greedy slut?
You betcha.
Absolutely.
She
betcha. Absolutely is.
Yeah, and I'll be the first one to tell you. Her brother. Oh my God. Oh my
Can
God.
the name of my second book be just Greedy Slut?
The Greedy Slut.
Oh my God. I'm naming my second book Greedy Slut.
Greedy Slut question mark? Absolutely.
They try to give us what they can of the she's guilty argument.
Right.
And the brother is saying, no, there really wasn't inheritance coming because she was getting a 2-carat diamond ring from her aunt that would be worth $20,000 or whatever.
Oh, you're an aunt person?
Oh, no, aunt. Oh, my, I am not. I'm totally an aunt person.
Oh, okay.
I don't know why I just.
It's okay if you are.
They say aunt, which is why I was like, I was remembering
it's
it in my
okay
head.
if you are.
I know.
I couldn't remember if I'd ever heard you say that before. I'm an aunt.
Then we get this other whole thing where like Becky always kept her gun in her purse, and so her attorney is like, probably what happened is the intruder came in through the garage and was rifling through her purse and found the gun, and then decided to go in there and kill the husband. What?
I'm yawning. I'm bored by you, lawyer.
I know.
You're full of shit.
I know.
You're full of shit.
Just so I understand, this guy came there to kill the husband, but didn't bring a murder weapon.
Right.
Was counting on finding a murder weapon in a handbag in a car.
Just like in the Robert Wone case.
Yes.
They just took all the knives that they found in the house. Okay, perfect.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened.
What's more, that glove with Becky's DNA on it also had someone else's DNA, but the CSIs couldn't narrow it down, not to Keith or anyone else.
They can't even determine that it wasn't Keith's. It's just undetermined DNA.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
There's gun residue on her hands.
I mean...
Like, are you kidding?
And there's a gun in her fucking
that
dryer.
She hid. Please.
You know what I mean?
Please. So...
Is she a slut? Yes.
Greedy slut? Even better.
She couldn't be a
She couldn't be a greedier slut. She couldn't be... And look... I love sluts. I'm just saying. I don't believe in slut shaming.
She couldn't be a greedier. She couldn't be as greedy.
But if we're talking about Becky, according to her brother, there is no greedier slut than Becky. Says her own fucking brother. Pam is scandalized by this whole thing. If Pam watched this, she was probably like, she's not a greedier slut on earth than my sister. Like, what are you saying? David, there's like other ways to say that. Hey, that's my sister you're talking about. She's the greediest slut there is. How dare you?
Oh my God.
David.
Oh my God.
David. And then he's like, you know what? Actually, Andrea, I don't even know what happened. I don't even know the truth.
I know.
My slutty, greedy sister. I don't even know what she did. She definitely didn't murder him.
No.
But he doesn't even know how this story, he doesn't even know what happened.
That greedy slut, she's never murdered anybody.
Oh, God.
Come on.
Not once. Unless maybe she did, he says. He doesn't even know. So it's 2013.
The verdict? Guilty of first-degree murder. On July 9th, 2013, Becky was sentenced as the jury had recommended to life in prison without parole.
Becky gets life in prison without parole. And then we hear from like 1,000 people that Keith would want us to forgive Becky. Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think he would, and I'm not gonna.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah, mine just kind of answered that she was found guilty of first-degree murder.
Yeah, no, I'm not forgiving her, and I don't think Keith would either. Fuck her.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Oh my God, girl! We did. What was it called?
Mystery and Mustang.
I mean,
not really a mystery.
It's really
I know exactly what happened. Fuck you, Becky. Bye. Hate you. Hating you. Yeah, she's giving sluts a bad name.
She really
How
greedy
dare
sluts.
you?
Greedy sluts did that.
Like, come on.
Is she a slut? Yeah. Is she a greedy
and sluts
slut?
are great.
I
But
know.
like, stop, Becky.
Oh my stars!
Suck.
Join us on the Patreon. There's even more of this nonsense over there.
Sure.
I mean, in that Aaron Hernandez series, when we did the alligator crocodile moment.
Oh, is that where that's from?
Yes, legend. It's legendary.
Legendary. Yeah, you got me. Big time.
What are we doing next? What's our next Dateline?
The next episode is Tangled, season 24, episode 38. And the description is, after a sudden marriage creates tension between two families, a murder exposes secrets, lies, and a long-buried history. More family drama coming your way, everybody.
I love Dateline so much.
I know,
just
it's really
love
good.
it. All right, fam. Stay tuned for the trailer for that. And we love you. And we'll see you next time.
Okay, bye, everybody.
All right, bye.
Bye.
It started as a teen romance.
Two of my girlfriends were like, there's this guy and you need to meet him.
I was in love. Yes.
It ended in one of the strangest love stories you'll ever hear.
I felt like I got hit by a bus.
Right before their wedding, her mother and his father got married.
They told us, we ran off, we eloped. Who does that?
Two families in a small town left stunned. But it was nothing compared to what happened next.
He looks like he's been shot. He said someone broke in last night.
A deadly attack in the dark of night. Her mother murdered.
I realized that last conversation I had with her that was it.
His father bruised and bewildered.
I don't remember anything else other than waking up in the morning.
Was it a robbery?
Television's gone.
Or was it something much darker?
You were 11 years old when your mother disappeared.
A missing woman, a murdered woman, and a lie.
I didn't get through more than a page and a half and I threw it. I could barely stomach to finish it.
I'm Lester Holt, and this is Dateline.
Can we try for harmony?
Yeah.
Queen of the county, queen of the county.
Did that work? Is that good?
Oh my God, we're officially a band.
Oh my God, I love it. Finally.
Finally.
There is no greedier slut than Becky. Says her own fucking brother. Pam is scandalized by this whole thing. If Pam watched this, she was probably like, she's not a greedier slut on earth than my sister. Like, what are you saying? David, there's like other ways to say that. Hey, that's my sister you're talking about. She's the greediest slut there is. How dare you?
Oh my God.
David.
Oh my God.
David.